Welcome to Author's Tales, where we go beyond the words and into the heart of the storyteller.
Every book holds a story, but beyond the pages lies something even greater: the journey. The long nights, the countless rewrites, the moment when doubt whispers and passion shouts back louder. This is where authors share their truth, the struggles, the breakthroughs, and the moments that made them believe in their story.
If you love a great story or dream of writing your own, you're in the right place.
Because every book has a voice, every author has a tale, and the best stories, they don't just get told, they get lived.
This is Author's Tales, where stories come to life. Good morning. Oh my gosh, Jen, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, absolutely. And good morning to you. Wow, I'm really excited to be here today.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're going to be talking about your incredible book. And my gosh, I got to tell you, not only is it beautifully designed, right? The cover is great, but the words really what makes a big difference for me.
Good.
In reading it, it kind of like gave me of who you are and all the different things that you experienced, right? But becoming the warrior, would you say that you became the warrior because of all the endeavors you had to go through?
I would say yes. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different hurdles. And really, the only way that I survived was by becoming a warrior so that I could get through all of those.
Yeah, yeah. So, anybody who's listening, you gotta pick up your own copy because I'm gonna keep mine. She signed it for me. So, and here's one of the things that I love about your book. It's a book that I can keep going to. I'm gonna be honest with you. Take a look. I'm gonna show you what I've done to your book. What
Ooh, I love it.
I even wrote, if you can see, I even wrote some of my ideas or my thoughts of what you were trying to tell me. So
Oh,
for
great.
me, it really it's a book that I will come to over and over again because it's not, you can read a novel, right? But when something helps you understand things better or it reminds you of things that you need to continually do in your life, I think it's a keeper. So everybody, guess what? I'm going to give you the QR code. Are you ready so you can pick up your own? Here it is. Take a look at the QR code so you can get your own copy. That's the book. And here is a QR code, right? So why is it not showing? Oh, I'm going to make things happen here. Give me 1
It's a
second.
Monday morning.
It is Monday morning, right? So it says remove. So, okay, now add to the stage. There we go.
Yeah.
Ta-da. So that is the QR code. You can pick up your own copy of Becoming the Warrior. But I love harnessing your inner strength to silence doubt. I think that we need to talk about silencing doubt, and I love how you named it, right? And what people have named theirs. Um, when did you realize you needed to write this book?
It was about 2 years ago. And I've been speaking for about 5 years now, and people were coming up to me all the time and asking, do you have a book? Do you have a book? We'd really like to learn more. And I'll be honest, I'm an engineer and I'm not a huge fan of writing. But I realized like I have so much that I have to share with others that it's like,
Mm.
you know what, now is the time. And it was really a spark. And it was like, now I am ready, and sat down about really started about a year and a half ago to start to writing, and
Mm.
it just started to flow. So that really told me that I am onto something. Like, this has to get out into the world.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So when you said you're an engineer, you don't like writing. Yeah.
It's true.
But you by the way, thank you for your service. And I know I said it to you earlier, but I want people to acknowledge that you were in it deep, if you will. You were a captain in the U.S. Navy.
Yes.
Not an easy feat. especially for a female, right?
That is true.
So, yeah.
We were only basically it was like 9% women in the organization that I was in the Navy, because it's all construction, it's all
Mm,
engineering, and there's so few women that really go into engineering and construction, and even fewer that actually go into the Navy.
mm.
So I was typically the only woman in the room. That was typical.
Wow. And in reading your book, you also mentioned that sometimes you were the youngest,
Mhm.
and that's when doubt even crept in, right? Uh, but let's talk about some of the concepts that you bring up in your book. I love this one, right? They may not realize they're chasing to listen to lies the voices in their head tell them. So what is it that we always have this conversation with ourselves, don't we?
Many people do.
I
We
do.
we have all of these discussions all the time. Should I do this? Should I not do this? And then you have those kind of mean little voices at the back of your head saying, you're really not good enough to do that. We
Mm,
shouldn't do that. People will find out that we're just a fraud. We got here by luck. And the problem is that, since we were children, we've been listening to these voices in our head. They're the same ones that have kept us safe, by not darting out into a street or not putting our hand on a stove. We've had all of these different discussions in our head. But then whenever we get older, we start to have these other kind of malevolent voices that are telling us some of these really mean things. And
mm,
we've been listening to them since we were children. And
right.
so we think, well, that was trying to keep us safe. We believed it then. Why do we not believe it now? And there's so many people who listen to that and say, well, that must be the truth. I'm not going to go after whatever that goal, that dream, whatever it is, that's the next step, just because they're choosing to listen to those lies.
So you're saying that sometimes we lie to ourselves?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There's so many times, just think about it. Like you want to go do something and you're like, oh, I'm not ready.
Mm,
But you start to think about like really what you're trying to do. You've probably done something similar before.
right.
You probably have. But there's
Mm,
this little voice that's just like, it's just downright mean is what it is. And it's its own way of trying to keep you safe from failing.
mm,
Because in our minds we don't want to fail, and so a lot of times that voice is trying to say, well, if you do this you're going to fail, but if you just listen to me you won't fail.
right.
And so that's why a lot of times we don't go after things.
Mm. Oh, I guess it also helps if somebody else keeps telling you you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail. So you like, oh, you
Mhm.
start to believe the outside lies too, not just the internal ones, right?
Oh, absolutely. I call them the naysayers, the
Mm,
people who are basically the like, you know honestly, a lot of times it's our loved ones.
right.
It's our, they're like, oh, you can't do that. you know they're also just trying to, keep you where you are, keep you in your status quo, keep you from trying something new.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes it's your boss. Like I've had a couple of bosses that were just downright mean, and they would tell you, hey, you're not good, you need to do better, and no matter what you do you just can't live up to their expectations. And so you hear this over and over again, and it starts to get ingrained in you, and you start to think to yourself, maybe I am not good enough. My family's not telling me I'm not good enough. My boss is telling me I'm not good enough. And we start to believe it ourselves.
Mm. I bet I'm gonna say this out loud, but I bet those bosses should get a copy of this
Yeah,
book. And they
exactly.
would realize that they were rotten at one point. But some people, they think that they have to act a certain way in order to get certain respect, but they're missing the point.
Many of the times they're trying to prove that they are good enough.
Mm,
And I would say probably the majority of people, they're just trying to prove it to themselves.
right.
Like the people around them accept them for what they are, but they're trying to prove to themselves that they're good enough to be in that position. We call it,
Mm,
the fake it till you make it. You're not trying to convince the other people around you. You're trying to convince yourself that you deserve to be there. And what I
mm,
like to tell everybody is like, look, most of the places where you go and the positions that you're in, Your bosses don't really like risk. So why would they have put you in that position if they didn't believe that you could already do it? And that's what people need to realize. It's like if you get a promotion, somebody believes in you enough to actually put you there. Take that in and just realize like you have so much to give, and stop being so hard on yourself and realize this person believes in me enough to put me in this position. I deserve to be here, and have a little grace and just allow that to happen.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you said, and I love it, is a lot of people do or told the advice of fake it till you make it.
Mhm.
But we should reframe it to make it till you believe it, right? Fake it
Right.
till you believe it, because others believed it. Otherwise, like you said, they would not put you in that position. So it's a matter of self-belief, right?
Right. We
Mhm.
look at the world in very different ways than other people see us.
Right.
And I think that's so important and that's why I also talk about grabbing a battle buddy. And this is somebody who you trust. This is a friend, this is a colleague. And we might see the world very differently, and we might tell ourselves all these nasty little things all the time, that we're
Mm.
a fluke, we just got lucky, we're not good enough, and all these other things. But the battle buddy, they can't hear that voice in your head, which is awesome.
Right.
They can't hear it. They just see what the truth is. And so you can go and talk to them and say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is," and you know what? They'll tell you what the truth is. So go out and
Mm.
find a battle buddy. Find that person who will give you the truth in those times when you think like, "I don't know if I can actually do this," because they'll probably tell you the truth. Maybe you need to shore up some of your defenses. Maybe you need to do something additional in order to get to that next rung. They can help you get there.
Mm. It's very interesting because in civilian life,
Mhm.
many people don't understand what you mean by battle buddy, but in the military, in the Navy, those are people that can you actually have to rely on them to even keep you safe sometimes, right? So
It,
it's a big difference, isn't it?
it is. And in the civilian world, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's
Mm,
your best friend. Like
right.
your best friend can be your battle buddy. That's the person who always has your back, who will always tell you the truth. That's what a battle buddy really is. In the military, it's that person who is by your side all the time. And I mean all the time. They
24/7.
might bunk with you. Because I was pretty much the only female officer. My battle buddy was a guy, which is very awkward because when you have to go to
Mm,
the bathroom, they have to stand outside to make sure that you're okay. And this vice versa. I had to follow him to the bathroom. It's
mm,
really, really awkward. But that battle buddy is that person who helps keep you safe. They're the ones that
mhm,
always know where you are, but more importantly, they're the ones that can help you remain accountable for whatever it is that you have to do.
mm. And so in the military, you are given a battle buddy, right? You don't get to choose, or do you get to choose?
A lot of times you do get to choose. Uh,
Mm,
there's just sometimes where it's just like you just have to, whoever is nearby is your battle buddy. But I
right.
got to choose my battle buddy. We're great friends. We're still great friends to this day.
Nice.
I I even even in our civilian lives, when he was going through some pretty hard times, I was his battle buddy for that. I
Mm.
was the one that he could call and actually just talk to me about the things that were going on in his life. That's that's truly what a battle buddy is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Because and you talked about earlier before we came on live, you were talking that you miss the people.
I
That's what
do.
you miss about leaving the Navy. How long did you serve?
I served for 27 years,
Oh my goodness!
both
Look at
active
that.
and reserve. So yes, it was a long time.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, that's an incredible feat, and it's when I said, "Oh my goodness," is because you look 25. So how on earth did you serve at 27?
I've got a good filter on my camera. No.
Oh, there you go. That's always a good thing, right? When we consider the life we choose, right?
Mhm.
Because you could have chosen just to serve for a certain amount of time and then left it, right? You kept choosing over and over to re-enlist because you have to re-enlist, right?
As an officer, you
Mm.
don't re-enlist.
Oh, really? Okay.
You stay in until you decide that you are ready to depart.
Mm.
You have your first chance after 4 years. Then after that, you remain in. Now, there's ways that you might be, separated from the military. For instance, if you don't make rank, things like that, then they'll ask you to leave. But on the most part, as an officer, you'll stay in until you decide to depart, or you get to a certain age limit, or you outrank. You've been in the rank for too long, and you don't get
Mm.
promoted. But I did choose to continue to go back because as a reservist, you you kind of can say no. But I
Mm.
kept choosing to take the next job, to keep pushing myself, to keep trying to do something that I'd never done before, take on new leadership, positions, go to Iraq, go to Afghanistan,
Mm.
all those
Mm.
type of things like that. Where technically I could have just said no, I'm not going, and I could have just left at that moment.
Wow.
But I kept choosing to go. I kept choosing it for the people. I had been serving with all of these incredible people for all this time, and we've been doing all of our workups. And it was like, heck no, I'm not going to leave right now. No, I want to go. I want to be with my people. I
Right,
want to make
right.
sure that they remain safe. I want to make sure that we can go do the best job that any of us could ever imagine whenever we go to these different places.
That's incredible. That's incredible. When you consider all the people that you touched among safely, of course, uh, uh, throughout your career, um, and I'm sure that you lost some people as well. Is there a moment in time that you said, "I can't believe I lost this one," or "I can't believe that this one is still here, and yet they shouldn't be here"?
Yes.
Mm.
Even really early on in my career, I almost lost one of my, we're called CBs. Uh,
Mm.
we're in the construction battalions,
Right.
and I almost lost him. He wound up getting pinned between a drill rig and
Mm.
the large compressor, and he basically got it rolled, and he got smashed between the two. We had to get an excavator to go in and take and pull the compressor away from him so that he could just drop to the ground.
Oh,
And
wow.
we honestly thought we had killed him because that thing was so heavy, and he broke, almost all of his ribs. And
Mm.
it just, as a leader, you have to just go back and start to think about, what did I not do?
Right.
What did I
Mm.
not train this person to do? Why did this happen? And as a leader, we have to go back through all of those different things and try to figure out, like, what could we have done better to prevent this?
Mhm.
So yes, there have been several times, within my career where I just realized, like, I'm actually pretty lucky that I didn't lose somebody to combat. I did have a member that committed suicide, and you
Mm.
still go back and start to think through everything, and like, what as a leader, what could I have done more? And
Right.
it's heartbreaking. It really
Mm.
is.
I can only imagine if somebody on your watch, unfortunately believes that they're not, worthy of living, and then you probably took that on yourself, and, um, because the kind of person that you are, it probably hit you hard, didn't it?
It did.
Mm.
He was a very well-liked person. Like, he was one of those people that everybody went to in the ops department, to go
Mm.
get something done. "Hey, you need this done?" That's the guy to do it. He was so well-liked,
Mm.
but, we all kinda have some of our personal demons sometimes, and it's like, no matter what we can do, like, it just came out of the blue,
Mhm.
and it's like, we never know really what's going on. And
Mm.
honestly, that's why so many of my good friends are doing things for veterans, because there's so many veterans that are, taking their own lives. As
Right.
we're coming up on Veterans Day,
Yeah.
please remember all of those that have served. And, there's a lot of things that are going on that we don't see. We don't
Mm.
see what's going on in people's lives. And, we don't judge them too harshly.
Right.
That's what we need to remember, that everybody has their own battles, their own demons that they're trying to get, past. So please, if you know a veteran, just tell them thank you. Y-
Yeah.
I think that's, the biggest thing. Cause like sometimes that's all people need.
Yeah. Just an acknowledgement. And it's, and like I said to you earlier, that I get to live the life I live because of the service that you provided for us, for our country, for you've touched so many people, because you kept us safe. Right.
Thank
So
you.
thank you again. And so you talked about the inner voice. So let's talk
Mhm.
about that, because it's very interesting when we talk about and you put it this way, the voice of your inner critic sounds the same as the voice of the basic instincts that are designed to keep you safe.
Yes.
We are our own worst critics sometimes, aren't we?
Oh, yes. Oh, we can be so mean to ourselves.
Mm,
Just the things that we tell ourselves. Like, would you
yeah.
actually tell that to somebody else? Probably not. But we
Mhm.
have these own thoughts, that keep coming up. Uh, that's what I find so interesting. And also, by the way, I am a nerd. I like to study neuroscience and I like to read up on it and try to understand, like, where do these mean little voices come from? So that's I think also a really piece of interesting science that's going on, is like, why do we even have these? And not
Mm,
everybody does. I
mm,
will tell you, probably the first part of my life, I didn't. Man, I was just going. Like, there was no stopping me. There's nobody that, don't tell me no. I'm going to go do it anyway. And then it was
mm,
just really started after the stakes got a lot higher. And also whenever I started having a few failures along the way, that's when the voices started to come up, and they
mm,
started to get louder and louder, the more stress that I came under. And like I said, a lot of these voices have come out of instincts. They've come out of our intuition, because that's what we were born with.
yeah.
And those are the things that kept us safe. But
Mm,
these other little voices are kind of coming out of that. And in their own way, maybe they're trying to be helpful, but again, they're trying to keep us from not trying anything new. They're trying to
mm,
keep us static, because that's the safest place to be. When we start to go outside of our comfort zone, when we start to try to grow and try to reach for something greater, that's scary. And so
yeah.
that's when you start to hear those voices start to say, you tried that before and you failed. You probably shouldn't do that again. That's
Mm,
when you start to hear, a lot of those voices start to come up.
yeah,
Can I
yeah.
ask, when did the voices start to talk to you?
Oof. As a little kid, always. I've always had them. And it's very interesting because to me, when you just said not everybody has them, like, how could they not? Because they have choices, right? When we make a choice, I think we have that inner dialogue that we have is like, do I do this or do I do that? So I personally, and I'm not a doctor, but I'm thinking everybody makes a decision based on the communication they have with themselves. It's a yes or no, and
Yeah.
why, right? So me personally, I like being a nerd too, by the way. So, one of the things that you wrote when you were telling me about, when we were going to do this show together,
Mhm.
that you wind up trusting your inner critic so much that you believe the negativity sometimes that it does portray to you. So, how do you learn to hold it down or even turn it around?
I'm so glad you asked. Uh, so as you were saying, like, you had that inner critic that was so loud whenever you were a kid. For
Mm,
me, I had this other voice that was like, yeah, let's go do it. So it's like, it was a completely different voice from the inner critic. And
right.
over time, my inner critic started to grow louder. And whenever I was at the lowest point of my life, I realized I had to figure a way out, because I
Mm,
was listening to all of that chatter, all of that meanness. And I felt like I had absolutely no self-esteem whatsoever. And I had to figure out how to get out of there. And so I started to remember that other voice.
Mm.
That other voice that was like, yes, yes, I can. Because just like you said, you have a yes and a no. Where is that little voice that's saying, yes, I want to do this? And so for me, I started to do a lot of research on how do we amp up that voice so that it's as loud as or louder than that inner critic. And
Mm.
so that's really where it comes from. It's like that's where basically becoming the warrior is all about. It's like finding that voice that says I can, and bolstering it. And you can actually go through, there's a lot of different techniques that I show in the book about how to think more positively as opposed to more negatively.
Mm.
And just going through all of that, you actually can train your brain to go back to whenever you have some of these, should I say yes or should I say no? All of a sudden, the one that you've been training is like, we should say yes, because I know I can do this, because I've done this before. I might have to tweak what I'm doing, but I
Right.
know that I can. That's the voice that we need to just amplify. Like, just imagine like what you can accomplish if you just have that voice, instead of that voice is saying like, no, we shouldn't do this. That voice is like, yeah, we need to do this. This is
Right.
going to be great for us. Think about how your life could change.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting because as a kid, I'm number 10 of 12.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
10 of 12, and I still felt alone.
Mm,
So who did I have to talk to? Me.
yeah.
So I had that lots of conversations with the best person I know, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's about the asking the questions, and I always say, you know, a lot of times people ask questions they already know, but
Mm,
they just want to they just want clarification, I believe.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
I was an only child, so I absolutely understand.
there you go. So was I, even though I was 10 of 12. So I love this part because the warrior framework is composed of, tell us, because this is your words, it's your framework. So
It
tell us
is.
about the framework.
It's pretty easy. I like to meet people where they are. So a
Mm.
lot of times when I say, yeah, do you have this inner voice? A lot of times they're like, oh yeah, you're right. So the
Mm.
very first step is all about perceiving that voice. I've talked to, like I said, I've talked to several people and they never really thought about it. So meeting people where they are and just having them just listen. When you have an issue, when you have a problem, just have them listen and they start to perceive, oh, there is that other voice that's trying to tell me these things. The
Mm.
assess part is all about, is that voice helpful or is it harmful? The next part is basically getting ready. And I was telling you about that other voice. That other voice is like, I can. And readying is all about taking that other voice and amping it up. And we do
Mm.
this by training. We do this through mental discipline. It's
Right.
also about just getting ready. Like if you know you have like a really hard meeting that's coming up in 2 days,
Mm.
how do I prepare for that? What are those mean little voices going to be saying? How am I going to counteract that? What are some of the things that could happen during that meeting so that I'm prepared? It's all
Right.
about getting through all of those things. Then act. It's just about acting. It's about taking that very first simple step. We go through all these other things and it's like, there's like, what do I do now? Oh, no, no. Okay, just take like a tiny, simple little step,
Mm.
and plan it out. Write out like what you plan to do. Man, when you start to write things down, all of a sudden it becomes real. And
Mhm.
if you just write out that first step, to say like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to prepare to do it. And just taking it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. So it's really simple. And it's actually based on the things that we learned in the military when we have any type of enemy that might be coming towards us. It's about situational awareness. It's about looking around you and understanding things. It's about assessing whether that person is a friend or a foe. It's about readying our weapons if we have to. And then it's about acting if it comes down to that. So
Mhm.
that's really what the framework is based on.
Yeah. Well, in the military, your life depends on it. If you can't do that, that's why I guess you get trained in it so well. But in civilian life, I mean, you can do that with everything. I mean, do I want to eat this food? How is it going to be hurting my body?
Right.
Or is it going to help my body? Do I want to go to this movie? Am I going to be bored out of my mind, or am I going to have a good time, or am I just going to please my partner? So there's so many different aspects that we can take this. And I'm sure you're doing it consistently even now. It becomes so second nature to you, right?
It does. And it starts to get faster, it starts to get easier. And I will tell you, I feel like my life is so much better because I'm going through this process.
Mm.
I'm literally happier because I don't have so many negative thoughts that are weighing in on me. And I'll tell you, if you ever have the voices, you know what? You're probably always going to have the voices, because there's always going to be that part that's like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Is that yes, no that we talked about? But whenever you just say, hey, you know what? I know that I can do this. I know what I've done in the past. I know how I did it. I know what my own personal strengths are. Then it's like, hey, you know what? Okay, you know what negative voices? Okay, I heard you. I heard you.
Mm.
But you can go and sit back down again. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to go about it. And this is how we're going to make things happen. And I am happier. I am so much happier now that I've decided to listen to that other voice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. In the old days, I think if you saw somebody speaking to themselves, you would think they were a little bit wacky. And when you talk about hearing voices, a lot of people go, "That's schizophrenia." But wait a minute, not necessarily, right?
Right.
Because it's more of you communicating with the most intelligent person you personally know internally, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, there's people way smarter than us, but it's a matter of wherever you go, there you are. So you
Right.
have a constant friend, right? And
Right.
I like seeing it like that, as I always have somebody in my corner.
Right.
Always have somebody in my corner, somebody that I can bounce ideas off. So that's why I look, I'm not an outside talker, I'm an internal talker. But I've seen friends of mine who actually have conversation. I'm like, "Were you talking to me?" They're like, "No, I was just talking to myself." I'm like, "Okay, but I heard you, so maybe I'm in this conversation now."
Well,
So
even yeah, please go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I'm listening.
Well, even if you just verbally have some affirmations and
Mhm,
you physically say them, what you're telling yourself these things, you're boosting yourself up. That goes a long way. So the people who are having
mm,
their internal conversations externally, maybe
right,
that's how they go through and solve their problems. We all have
mhm,
these different ways that we can do it. There's no one way. And
right.
and that's what I love about it.
Well, I've heard 1,000 times that when you think it, it's great, but when you say it, you're hearing it twice, because
Oh
you
yeah.
heard it in your mind and then you're hearing it through your ear. And writing it is way deeper. And you talked about writing it before because it helps you assess ideas, right? So a lot of times I will take like scraps, pieces of paper. I'm not kidding. I will write everywhere on envelopes. I will write on
I've got
scrap.
stickies.
I will do
I've
things
got
on look at napkins. I will, but then later on, I found one of the coolest tools, and it's a remarkable too. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything. But the remarkable two saved me because I used to have 5 journals.
wow.
One was just as fast as I can write. The other one I would think about it and write more. And then until the final one is I would take all those thoughts and put them together. But now I can do that in one place. I don't have to go looking for all these different journals. So that's the only reason I spend the money on it, because it wasn't necessarily cheap, but it was so worth it. And so when we talk about even when we say things to ourselves, one of the ones that I love that you brought up, and that it's what if.
Right.
Talk to us
There-
about that.
There's a whole family of what ifs.
Mm,
And a lot of times when people are trying to figure out, who actually is talking in their brain, I go back to the what ifs. It's like, what if I fail?
mm,
What if I'm not good enough? What if I succeed? There's
right.
all these different ones. And so you can start to narrow down where where are your voices coming from. So many people are realizing that they have imposter syndrome. They don't feel like they got to their position because they earned it. And so they start to ask themselves, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not worthy? What if I'm a fluke? What if I just got lucky? And so if you have those type of what ifs, that's really imposter syndrome. And you can kind
Right.
of narrow in on like, how do I fix that? A lot
Mm.
of times people are like, what if I fail? Now, a lot of times this what if is if you're where you are and you're pretty happy where you are, you're content, but you're looking to like get to that next rung. And you start asking yourself, but what if I fail?
Mm.
What if I'm good enough for where I am now? But what if where I'm trying to go, what if I fail? And then the
Mm.
one that I didn't know about and I had to really research is what if I succeed?
Ooh.
There's a lot of people, and I'm realizing that more and more, there's a lot of people who have a fear of success, that they're afraid that if they get to that next position, like they're happy where they are, but if they get to that next position,
Mm.
that they're not going to be good enough there, that
Mm.
they're going to have to rename themselves. Like they're, will they be a good enough leader for all of the people that are under them? My good friend Anna that I talked about, she was afraid to finish a marathon because then she would be called a marathoner. And for her, she's
Wow.
like, I'm not a marathoner. It's like other people are marathoners. I'm not good enough to be a marathoner. And
Mm.
so her whole thing was that she was afraid she was going to finish the marathon. And I've
Mhm.
talked to so many other people who they're afraid to go to that next rung because they're afraid that they are going to succeed. And I think that, I think we could like almost write a whole new book about really
Ooh.
understanding what that is.
I think you should. I think
Let me
people
get
need
this
to.
one out first. Let me get this one out first.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? What a great point, because the what ifs, everybody, I believe, at one point or another says that, right?
Right.
And sometimes it's the naysayers. What if you
Mm,
fail? What if you fail? And they constantly say that. It's rare that I ever see or hear somebody say to somebody, "What if you succeed? What are you going to do with that?"
right.
It's rare, and I rather hear that more often than "What if you fail?"
Right. I whenever I'm speaking and I'm doing a keynote on this type of information, I actually do like to ask people like, what if you succeed? What
Mhm.
if you push through whatever that fear is? Like, what does it look like on the other side?
Yeah.
Will you be happier? Will you have more financial security? Will you have more flexibility? Start to think about all of those things about what would happen if you do succeed.
Right.
And this is where I stumbled on the no, actually, there are people who are afraid of success. Whenever I asked my friend Anna, I'm like, what if you just push through it? And then that's when the whole fear of success thing came out. I'm like, oh, this is a thing.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I never knew. I really had to go and understand a lot more of that. But for those that do not have a fear of success, for those that have imposter syndrome, for those that have the fear of failure, imagine what your life would look like if you just pushed through.
Oh,
What would that
powerful.
look like? What would your life
Yeah,
look like? How would you be different?
yeah. Look how far you've come because of it, right?
Yeah. Like anything is possible.
Yeah. I wanna talk about another point that you brought up, prior to this is everyone has an internal warrior, right? But even think about the fact that it's not that everybody has an internal warrior fighting you, but fighting for you,
Right.
right?
And that's that voice that says, I can. It's
Mm.
that voice that says, hey, you know what? You can do this. It's the exact counterpoint to that mean little voice. That's the one that we have to create that's stronger. We can
Mm.
do this through, like I said, training. We can do it through discipline. We can
Right.
do it through, a whole other, set of, looking at what are your wins? What are the things that you've done that are great? What are your internal strengths? What are the things that you've already accomplished? And if we go through this, and really it takes about 28 days, that's what most neuroscientists recommend. If you go
Mm.
through these positive, looking at your wins, looking at your accolades, looking at your strengths, and go over this over and over, what happens is that it starts to rewire the neural networks within our brain, which is
Mhm.
so cool. That
Mhm.
instead of thinking all these negative thoughts, Now we're starting to go towards the positive, and that's where the warrior lives. The warrior lives in that positivity. And if we start to rework the neural networks within our brain, that warrior gets stronger. That warrior gets louder. So when you have that nasty little voice telling you you're not ready, all of the work that you've done over the last 28 days of going through and understanding all of those strengths, all these things you've already done, that voice is able to come out and counteract it and say, hey, no, we are ready. We've done this before. We're prepared. We know what we need to do. That's what that inner warrior is. It's that voice that says, I can.
Yeah, I love that. So you call the voice sometimes, and it's very funny to me when I read it in your book, when you call it the mean little voice.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is it always mean, or is it just sometimes it's mean?
Sometimes it's very sly. Sometimes it is mean. We can be the worst critics for ourselves, and sometimes it's mean. But it has a cousin, and that's the sneaky little bastard. So, some people call it procrastination, but there's a difference. What you have the mean little voice, who's that one who's like telling you all these nasty little things. But then there's also this one that's saying, maybe we shouldn't do this right now. Let's go do something else. And the way to tell it from procrastination is, for procrastination, it's like, okay, well, I just don't have time to do this right now for whatever reason. The sneaky little bastard is all about trying to steer you away from the path that you need to take in order to get to what you need to do. So for instance, if you need to make a hard phone call to a client. Now, the sneaky little bastard will tell you that, now's a really good time to go and clean out the dishwasher. Because it's hard. Like, you don't want to call that client. And so it comes up with all these other little excuses like, oh, you know what, maybe we shouldn't do that right now. Let's do something else. Let's go clean the office. And so what it does is it diverts you from doing what you really need to do. So you have the sneaky little bastard who's trying to divert you, and you have the mean little voice who is just flat out mean.
So if you notice across the screen, you see sneaky little bastard bigger and mean little voices smaller going across. So there's a reason I did that. It's just to amplify what you're talking about, because a lot of people don't realize, right? The sneaky little bastard is bigger than you thought, right?
Right.
So it's kind of funny. And so think about the. And so here's a question for you from Mandy. Hey, Mandy, what's your relationship with risk when it comes to all about what we're talking about? That's a good question, by the way.
I love this question. I'm an engineer, and so a lot of times we deal more with risk. So if you start to think about risk, what it is the consequences of a failure and the probability of the failure. So that's what risk is. Like, if you want to get back into, what it is in, engineering and business. And so instead of thinking about failure, like, oh, I'm going to fail. Okay, that's either a yes or a no. But if you think about risk, start to think about what are the consequences in case you might fail, and what's the probability? And a lot of times we're like, oh, we're going to fail. It's going to be horrible. What's the real probability that you will fail? Right. A lot of times it's very rare that you might have a colossal failure. So what you do is you go and you set up backup plans and things like that. So if you know the risk is going to be high, just make sure that you have some kind of safety net. But don't think about just failure as like a yes or a no. Start to think about, yeah, you might fail, but you have a very small percentage of a probability. There's a lot higher probability that you will succeed. And so instead of thinking about just failure, think about risk, and think about what your risk tolerance is. And even if it's high, doesn't mean you don't do it. Just set up a backup plan in case you do.
So we go back to the warrior framework, if you will, right? Because now you're going to go back to perceiving what the risk is, assessing the risk,
Right.
readying for the risk because it may or may not happen, and then you still need to take action. So I love the warrior framework. Thank you for sharing that with us because it's so important in so many things. And as long as you know that there is a risk, you're ready for it, right?
Right.
It's such a beautiful way of looking at it. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking the question.
Yeah. Great question, by the way. So I think we have exactly. So I'll risk move forward, right? What's the probability of success? Another
Right.
one, right?
Right.
And then awesome. I love your response. So
Thanks.
Mandy, thank you for being here with us. It has come to that time that I got to tell you, Jen, I love every time you and I have had a conversation. It is so impactful, so great. And I cannot wait to see you in person, by the way. So you are going to be celebrating Veterans Day.
Yes.
How are you going to do it?
One of the things that we love to do is we go to our Veterans Day parade here in our little bitty town. But then my husband and I, who's also a veteran, we go and we volunteer at the VFW and just help out other veterans, and, it might be helping serve food, it might just be going to talk to them. I think that we are very fortunate. Both of us have had our PTSD, we're good now. There's some people who haven't gotten over it. And so it's just nice to be around other veterans and helping them. So that's what I do on Veterans Day.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned it that we should just, if we find somebody who's a veteran, obviously, just talk to them, right? See how they're doing, because you mentioned something that's really hurtful when I hear it. That so many veterans do take their own lives, and sometimes it's because of that, the loneliness, right? The not being understood, and also I got to tell you, it's I went with a veteran to the VA hospital to visit another veteran. So he and I went, and he was so mad, the veteran I went with, because the veteran we were visiting wasn't getting all the attention or the help he needed. Meanwhile, he's at a place where they're supposed to be giving it to him, but there's so much red tape. And I was like, thoughts before we head off.
The system is not perfect. The
Mm,
more that we can highlight, the more that we can
right.
try to do what we can and try to make change and really just put people first. I
Yeah,
think that we can try to get there.
yeah.
It'll be a long process though.
It is. But thank you for your service.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for you're one of the veterans that doesn't stop serving. I can see that in you because listen, you're very fortunate that you met somebody that you fell in love with, right?
Mhm.
Who's also a veteran. So hats off to both of you and let him know I said hi
I will.
and thank him for his service. But also you guys, you haven't stopped serving because you're still serving humanity. You're helping
We are.
people. So that's incredible. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for your support. That means a lot.
Yes. And so thank you for all your precious service, Mandy says.
Thank you.
When anybody is interested in picking up your book, so
Mhm.
we do have the QR code, which I'm going to throw up there again, right? That's the book. This is
Mhm.
the QR code. Just take out your phones, people. It's not that hard unless you're on the phone. So you can take out your phone, click on it, right? Put your camera on, click it, go buy your copy. If they can't get to their phone, what's a website they can go to?
So you can go to Amazon. It's available on Amazon now. Or you can go to thewarriorframework.com and it'll give you a couple links. But here's the most exciting thing. If you go to thewarriorframework.com, buy the book through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever it might be, go to the middle frame, fill in your information, and then I'm going to send you the first 2 chapters of the book. I'm going to send you a workbook that goes with the book. I have a masterclass that's free for download. I've got a Facebook launch team that's getting up and running. There's a Spotify list. So there's like all these different things. If you just pre-order the book, you enter that information in, like sky's the limit. So it's actually really cool. It's like, I want to make sure that people have all the resources that they could ever have.
Yeah, I love it. So I am beyond fortunate. When is the book actually coming out?
March 24th of 26.
Wow.
So we have time, but
we have time. It's a day after my birthday, so I will probably reread it again a couple of times before then. So I am one of the lucky ones, but guess what? You can also read the first 2 chapters, and I got to tell you, they are worth it. So get your copy today. Don't hesitate.
Thank you.
Get it today. Thank you. And I got to tell you, it's such a pleasure having you on my show. I am blessed to know you. I truly am.
I've had so much fun. These are always great, really fun interviews. So I look forward to the next time that we get to talk.
Yes. Okay. God bless. Everybody, make sure you share the show. Make sure that your friends get a copy. Make sure your neighbors get a copy and give one as a gift, right? It comes out before Valentine's, so you can give out for Valentine's. Don't give them the back candy, right? Or the flowers that are going to die. This book will live in your library. If you don't have a library, this could be your first one. All right, everybody. God bless. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Take care.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Author's Tales. Stay updated and meet new authors. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Sifu Raphael TV. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and visit our website. Your support means the world to us.